Thanks for joining us. Just want to get your first reaction, really, to this peace deal overnight and phase one being agreed, and we're hoping, basically a ceasefire being agreed by the end of the day, and those 48 hostages dead and alive being returned within the next 72 hours. What do you make of the deal?
Well, on the one hand, I said last night, I can't breathe. I mean, it's like, could it be possible?
Yeah.
And although the deal is imperfect, I think anything that will get the hostages home deserves the celebrations that we've seen in Israel and amongst particularly the Jewish community, who are just so delighted. And the former hostages who have been released celebrating is just a joy to see. So I still can't breathe until it happens. But,
yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? Because we've got this session at the Battle of Ideas Festival called "Can Trump Bring Peace to the World?" Little bit tongue in cheek. And at this point, I'm thinking, maybe, maybe.
Well, exactly. I mean, I do want to flag actually the Battle of Ideas. I was tweeting about it yesterday, and it's coming up very soon, isn't it? Which weekend is it?
It's the 18th and 19th. Just over a week's time, over the weekend. All welcome. But anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant day. I've spoken at one before, and it is just, you're just surrounded by all these sensible people. It really is. It is the home of common sense on that weekend, that's for sure. Thank you for that, Claire. You can find details on her X feed and the like as well. But let's. I just want to ask you about the reaction. I mean, it's fascinating. All the people who are so obsessed, desperate for a peace deal, apparently obsessed with what's happening in Gaza all the time, seem to be remarkably quiet when it comes to an announcement of this. And even on the BBC and Sky, and ITV, a little bit sort of poo-pooing of, Donald Trump wants his Nobel Peace Prize. Every American president wants a Nobel Peace Prize. If Joe Biden or Obama had managed to put this deal together, got the Arab states to agree to it, got Israel to agree to it, and then Hamas to agree to even the first stage, they would be hailing that president as a genius. Donald Trump does it, not so much.
I know. I mean, it's churlish, and it will be interesting to see how the kind of pro-Palestinian, we could almost call them mobs or masses, or those people we see on the streets react to this, because I think that we have been shocked, particularly actually in the last couple of weeks, at the explicit levels of absolute hatred of the Jewish state Israel, but also just open conspiracy theories about the Jews running the world, the Zionists taking over, all of this sort of stuff, coming from people who, I have to say, are kind of quite mainstream. They're not like the kind of loopy-loo types.
Yeah.
And I think that when you see that, you realise how deep that sort of raging anti-Semitism has become internalised.
Yep.
And it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond to this, because on the surface, those demonstrations are about apparently wanting peace in the region. Well, now we have the opportunity of a form of peace in the region. And they are not, as you say, and I checked out some of their feeds, celebrating this wildly, certainly on social media. And so it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is. But genuinely, whatever the reasons, I don't care what Trump's motives are. I understand.
I don't care if he's bribed Hamas,
And Netanyahu's definitely in trouble because the Qatar thing didn't work. And
I'd say the opposite. I think it worked brilliantly. I think that's why Hamas have come to the table.
I think he's had to apologise for that. I think that there's problems there for Israel. But I was going to say Hamas are undoubtedly in a very weak position. So one way or another, the fact that many countries in the Middle East said to Hamas, you better get there or else, right, is a very positive sign. And it gives some hope. And we need some hope, because it's been disastrous.
We do, absolutely. Well, again, one of the things that I've always felt, like you say, these mobs, is that they're not pro-Palestine, they're anti-Jew, but they're also anti the West, anti-capitalism, anti-freedom, anti-democracy, anti-everything that actually, the things that do make our country well. And we are under attack by them. But we're also under attack in terms of those values and those freedoms by our own government. Once again, yet another government has said, you know what the solution to every problem is? Digital ID cards. I have been joking on this show for, I think, 10 years about how there's no problem in the world that Tony Blair doesn't think can't be solved by ID cards. He stubs his toe in the morning getting out of bed. ID cards. If only we had digital ID cards, that wouldn't have happened. And we had Keir Starmer a couple of weeks ago claiming that digital ID cards were just literally just thrown out at the beginning of the Labour Party conference, that digital ID cards was the plan. They would be compulsory. The idea was they would be used to tackle illegal immigration so people couldn't get work. Absolute load of nonsense. No one remotely thinks that would do that. But even at the time, they were being clear in documents sent to MPs. This wasn't just going to be used for getting a job or renting a home. This could go further. But even on his trip to India, the Prime Minister has been even more open. He said he'd like to bring in a new voluntary, he says, equivalent for everyday tasks of ID cards, where basically they'd be used to access your tax records, to claim benefits, to book apply for school places, to book childcare, and basically what many critics are saying is a one-stop shop checkpoint to access pretty much every public service and amenity. This is unbelievably sinister, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because groups like Together, headed up by Alan Miller, and also Big Brother Watch and Silky
we'll talk
Collar,
to them later.
I've been warning about this, and to be honest, I thought they were being a little bit paranoid. But the truth is, I was wrong, and they are right to have acknowledged that this continuity Blairism just won't go away.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that once it was announced before the Labour Party conference, and then suddenly there was a plummet in support for digital ID, that it then seemed that half the civil service don't even support it, that very senior figures in Labour were like, think this is a bit dodgy. Partly because they think, by the way, not because of civil liberties, but more because they think it could be an expensive disaster. But whatever, even, big tech companies coming out and saying this is unneeded. This is an overreach. It is dangerous to let the government intrude in your privacy in such a fashion. That all happens, and yet it won't die.
Yeah.
I mean, it is remarkable to me that the Prime Minister of this country, who managed to, miss the anniversary of the 7th of October.
There was one tweet. There was a tweet. Come on.
There was a tweet. He was over in India, and I thought, well, he's doing important international work. Fair enough, give him a break. And then I discovered that what he's over in India doing is discussing digital ID for the UK and inspecting the digital ID system. Yeah. That's incredibly illiberal in India, to see if he could get any hints for what he does to us. And I do think that sense of a state that, a state that basically thinks that the only way they can govern us is to survey us, is to snoop on us, is to keep tabs on us, is something that we should see, and the word you used is quite right, sinister.
Yeah,
it's
but I'm like you. A few years back, I would have been quite sort of, trusting of the government to be like, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear, what's the problem? Wouldn't it be more convenient if everything was in one place? I mean, I would certainly find my NHS app convenient for repeat prescription, click, 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 done. Oh, lovely. The thing is, we're talking about a digital ID, which is different from, having a passport, having a driving license, or having, a credit card. We're talking about something that exists in real time, changes in real time, can be controlled in real time. Your access to every single aspect of the state.
That's the point, Julia, isn't it? It can be cut off at any time. The problem that I've got with it, and I think those of us who were very sensitive during the whole lockdown period, and I know that you were one of those, where you suddenly realise that the state are capable of demanding that you show your papers. In vaccine passports was a good example, or else, right, you would be denied services and a job. And we saw what happened to the Canadian truckers and the whole issues around get their bank details cut off, and we've had issues like that in the UK.
And so the Free Speech Union, yeah.
Exactly. The fact that they can actually have your data and treat us as data points and control it and then deny you services. They say, it'll help access services. But actually, if they've got the switch, then they can turn it off.
Yeah, and we know, and we've seen what's happened in China. I mean, I tell people about how the social credit system works in China. You can't, if you've got low social credit, you're not allowed to buy a train ticket or a plane ticket and things like that, or apply to certain universities. And people just think I'm making it up and it's out of some dystopian Hollywood movie, and it absolutely isn't. But this all assumes it works. I mean, the government's track record on IT projects, billions spent, years overdue, and they don't work and they get abandoned. And that's assuming even if it worked, that it doesn't get hacked hacked. Government record on that. I mean, the MOD itself has been hacked, I think, more than 40 times in the last few years. I mean, so even if it worked, it would be terrible. And even if it doesn't work, it would be terrible and a big waste of money. And it won't solve any of our problems, but it does fundamentally change the relationship between the state and the individual. And this is where we are different. I mean, yeah. I think along with America, actually, where, you know, here's the thing. We are free. We are born free. And we have a relationship with the state where, unless we have agreed through our democratic parliament that we have laws to stop us doing certain things, we are free to do anything we darn well please that doesn't harm others and isn't against the law. This gives the government control over us in a different way. Yeah,
and I mean, I think that your emphasis on it might not work is not just paranoia or just being technocratic about our response, because we've also lived through the post office scandal, yeah, in which a major government data project led to people being falsely accused,
imprisoned,
and sent to prison, yeah, and their lives destroyed, their livelihoods destroyed, everything about it. We all know that scandal. But I'm just saying, we've also seen the data leak in relation to the Afghan situation, Afghanistan, and what that led to. So what I'd say is we are right to be suspicious. You don't have to be paranoid about it. But absolutely. I think your key point here is that we are free. We are free to do what we want. And to be in a situation where the government says, in order to access anything, we are going to be in charge of your data. Yeah. And they've already started introducing some dodgy things. They keep talking about affordability checks.
Yeah.
For example, for whether you can afford to go gambling, there's affordability checks being brought in as we speak in a fraud bill around welfare. And you might think, oh, they're just clamping down on fraud. But I tell you, it's bank spying has been brought in.
And it's the start of a very
something
slippery
else.
slope, absolutely.
I'm very nervous about it.
Baroness Claire Fox, always so good to talk to you. Thank